Today I'm going to talk about a heated topic. It's also a hot potato nowadays. It's about COVID-19 pandemic. So, in terms of COVID-19 pandemic, you guys have already heard it, like 100%. And it's a norm nowadays. Like, it appears in every nook and cranny of the street. And yeah, it's something that is, gone with it from, 2019, which is something that we've become familiar with. So today we're gonna, you know, glean deeper insight to what it is, how to take constructive steps to, um, you know, to mitigate it, and so on. So let's get into it. So, so first of all, we gotta see the definition of it. So it is a highly contagious respiratory disease treated by SARS-CoV-2, and it is also characterized by fever, shortness of breath, comorbidity, loss of taste and smell, and so on. And I believe that it is, nowadays COVID-19 is something that's unavoidable. It appears in every nook and cranny of the world, in every nation, in every country, and especially the death rates and also the incidence of people being diagnosed with COVID-19 it's on the rise. It's always on the rise. It could not really halt even a little bit. So um even I'll move on to the difficulty first. So there's two of it. Uh, you know, this is something that. So the first one I say is in terms of individuals. So this is for individuals, you guys. This is for individuals. 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 So they will be well first of all they have to definitely take on board certain alterations, even to their daily life, to their way of life, and even to their habits. So instead of going to work, they have to work from home and so on. Like, yeah. The second thing is that they would be out of work, or in other words, to be unemployed. And this because like this is due to the fact that even companies and factors and industries have to closed under the sheer influence of COVID-19 epidemic, and they may even go bankrupt, and this also affects the know employment rate. And it is especially like it's more even more even more difficult and strenuous for people, those who are making ends meet to bring home the bacon, and they will obviously face financial hardships. And I see that the third thing is because of all these lockdowns and even kind of like you know self isolation, quarantine, though, and even the financial hardship, like I've mentioned above. They will obviously suffer from stress, anxiety, fatigue, and burnout, and this will affect their mental and physical beauty. And one more thing is for children. So instead of going to school, children have to work to study online to have online education rather than go to on campus school. So for example, because my class have like several classmates, my peers are diagnosed with COVID-19 pandemic, and that's why we have to stay at home to learn instead of going to schools like normal. That's a real disadvantage for me, for not for me, but also for all children around the world. And the second aspect I would say is for the governments governments. And in terms of the government, I would say that their income, their revenue income will decreases because of the loss of trading, the loss of trading and tourism, which is also the main income. And now, because of COVID-19 pandemic, it is trading and tourism is interrupted, and that's what contributes to the great decrease in the income. And the second difficulty is that governments may be grappling with is obviously that they still like even um be that as it may, they still have to to answer the need of inhabitants, the need of inhabitants. So they may also provide incentives for their residents to invest in the vaccinations and so on. So, you know, it will contribute to the depletion of the funding and so on. And this even proved more worse in poverty-stricken country where they couldn't even um they couldn't really support their daily living, let alone with the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. So it's a really strenuous and arduous process. And I would say that the general living standards, yes, standards will be decreased, and also the safety of inhabitants will also be decreased. Sorry, guys. And the last but not least is COVID-19 obviously halts the prosperity of a country, a nation. Yeah, it obviously is. So these are the difficulties that I could think of. So because of it, so first of all, because all of this, cubism problems that it's causing to us, so what are we gonna do? So in order to avoid being diagnosed with, COVID-19 pandemic, you should conform to the laws, regulations, and lockdowns, social distancing, avoid simoning. You should also wash your hands frequently with soap, water, and so on. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, mouth with unwashed hands. And you should always pay attention to prevention testing, vaccination in order to improve herd immunity, or in other words, social immunity. And you have to, have a really well balanced diet, as well as you should do regular exercise to, maintain both physical and mental health to um, improve the resuscitation. And the solutions to mitigate the COVID-19 pandemic, and also the death rates that's going on, it's obviously there's two aspects. There's two categories. So for individuals, they have to glean deeper inside ongoing issues, to have to be well aware of what they're grappling with, and they should always conform to law and regulation and lockdowns that are set by the governments. They always should look on the bright side to try to keep a stiff upper lip, and they should learn to rise to the challenge, to come up against the challenge, to face up to grapple with the challenge, because we have to live with it. There's literally no magical or miracle way to literally eradicate it immediately. And we also have to have good hygiene to green and barrier and so on. In terms of the governments, I would say that every country has their own approach based on the current situations. So first of all, governments should, provide incentive and investment for its inhabitants, should inform people about the danger, the hazard, and threat that COVID-19 pandemic could pose to our life. Could also impose rigorous ban and laws to make sure that every citizen is fully vaccinated, to suppress the spread or the outbreak of diseases. And one like one of the most important thing is to apply technology into the act of combating diseases, because technology offer online communication and also aid lockdowns, and it will do people good. And COVID-19 pandemic has you know there's a lot of good things during the mid of COVID-19 pandemic. So doctors and nurses and hospital and staff and care home workers and even frontline workers selflessly work, knowing even they know that the risk they're facing is obviously tremendous. Some of them even lost their lives, which is something that's really touching and sensational. They have showed courage and determination to save lives, and even philanthropic actions have been done in order, is for example like donating stops and supporting others who are struggling with their lives who are struggling with dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. And I say that COVID-19 on the whole, like to sum up, to encapsulate it in separate words, I would say that COVID-19 has had a really like a great and a tremendous, a really a big, considerable impact on both individuals and also even the governments and the country, a nation, and even the whole world on the whole. So we should learn to avoid it, and we should be sympathetic with others as well. So, but I guess that's the end of my presentation. Goodbye.